Manila's mission to patrol close to Escoda Shoal in the West Philippine Sea is back on track with the deployment of the combined assets of the Coast Guard, the armed forces, but operational details are being kept under wraps. Michael Derizo has tonight's top story.
The Philippine Coast Guard didn't just leave Escoda Shoal. They left with swagger. Mission accomplished, victory lap complete, and a subtle message to Beijing. We'll be back, and next time, we're bringing even bigger toys. Now, before anyone screams retreat or compares this to Scarborough Shoal 2012, hold that thought. Because this isn't the Philippines backing down. This is the Philippines pulling a classic, strategic pit stop. Think Formula One. The car comes in, gets fresh tires, the crew catches their breath, and boom! They're back on the track, faster, sharper, and tougher. That's exactly what BRP Teresa Magbanua and her crew are doing. The flagship Coast Guard vessel had been sitting in hostile waters for more than 5 months, surviving bad weather, dwindling supplies, and yes, even a Chinese ramming incident that left a hole in her hull. That's not retreat. That's Rocky Balboa going the distance, taking the punches, and still raising the flag. Now she's back in Palawan for repairs, resupply, and a crew reset. Because newsflash, sailors aren't robots. They need food, water, and maybe a decent nap. But if you think one ship sailing home means China just scored a win, buckle up, because this narrative flips fast. Even without the Magbanua parked there, the Philippines isn't blind. We're talking radar sweeps, flyovers by Air Force planes, and surveillance backed by allies like the US, Japan, and Australia. It's like leaving your house but turning on 10 security cameras, a motion detector, and your nosy neighbor who watches everything from their window. China might think the coast is clear, but it's not. Which leads us to the bigger play. If Manila didn't actually lose Escoda by stepping out, what's the master plan here? Simple. Escoda isn't Scarborough 2.0. It's the front line. In 2012, Manila lost Scarborough Shoal after a standoff because of, you guessed it, no backup plan. But Escoda? Entirely different ballgame. Officials have been crystal clear. The Philippines is coming back with more ships, more Coast Guard muscle, and possibly a permanent rotation system. Translation: this isn't about one ship. It's about building a playbook that keeps China from ever planting concrete or sandbags on Escoda. And here's the kicker. Escoda may look like just another shoal on the map, but it's actually a giant thorn in Beijing's side. And in a moment, I'll show you why this tiny patch of sea is worth so much drama. So why is Escoda such a big deal anyway? On the surface, it looks like nothing more than a forgotten sandbar in the middle of nowhere, like the kind of place you'd only notice if your GPS broke. But in geopolitics, Escoda Shoal is like the queen piece on a chessboard. Small? Yes. Harmless? Not even close. It sits just 75 nautical miles off Palawan, smack in the middle of the West Philippine Sea, and whoever controls it gets a front row seat to everything happening in one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Control Escoda, and you don't just monitor fishing boats. You monitor global trade. Over $5 trillion worth of goods pass through the South China Sea every year. That's not pocket change. That's the world's allowance. Imagine being able to peek at, or worse, disrupt that flow. It's like owning the world's toll booth. Except instead of coins, it's container ships, oil tankers, and the lifeblood of international commerce. And Beijing? They're drooling over it. Escoda offers them the perfect stepping stone to expand their maritime militia, creep closer to Palawan, and eventually tighten their grip on the entire West Philippine Sea. In other words, Escoda isn't just sand and coral, it's leverage. But here's where it gets juicy. The Philippines isn't buying the inevitable China dominance script. Nope. Manila is flipping the script and playing a longer game. While China sends flotillas of Coast Guard vessels to harass Filipino ships, the Philippines is upgrading its partnerships. Think of it as David teaming up with a few more Goliaths. The US. They've already signaled they're willing to step in under the Mutual Defense Treaty if things get ugly. Japan. They're shipping over Coast Guard vessels like they're Amazon Prime. Australia. They're dropping in for joint drills. Piece by piece, Manila is making Escoda less of an isolated shoal and more of an international team project. It's no longer just one nation holding the line. It's a coalition sending a message. China, you might have the numbers, but we've got the neighbors. And let's be real, China hates that. Nothing annoys Beijing more than seeing the Philippines turn Escoda into a rallying point for regional cooperation. It's like the kid who tried to bully his smaller classmate, only to realize that classmate just invited the whole basketball team to walk him home. But here's the twist. This isn't just about military might or legal documents. Escoda is becoming a symbol, a living, breathing reminder that the Philippines won't fold, won't fade, and won't get shoved off the map like a pawn in someone else's empire-building dream. And that symbolism? Oh, it terrifies China. Because symbols inspire people, and inspired people don't go quietly. Here's the thing about Escoda. It's no longer just about coral reefs and shipping lanes. It's about pride. Inside the Philippines, the shoal has turned into a litmus test for leadership. Stand firm on Escoda, and you're seen as a defender of the nation. Waver, and you'll be branded weak, spineless, or worse. Another Scarborough repeat waiting to happen. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. knows this game all too well. Every move he makes at Escoda is being watched like a Netflix thriller. Pull back the ships and critics pounce. Hold the line, and suddenly he's not just a president, he's the guy standing up to the region's biggest bully. Escoda, in short, has become his political stage. And unlike some politicians who'd rather debate hashtags, Marcos Jr. is betting his legacy on steel hulls and sovereign rights. And let's be honest, Filipinos love a comeback story. BRP Teresa Magbanua limping home with a hole in its hull. That's not humiliation, that's grit. That's a ship that stared down dozens of Chinese vessels, endured harassment, survived deliberate rammings, and still made it back flying the flag. To many, it feels less like retreat and more like the halftime whistle in a fight that's far from over. This is why the narrative matters so much. When China boasts that the Philippines withdrew, Filipinos counter with, "Nope, we rotated." Rotation means endurance. Rotation means strategy. It means the Philippines is in this for the long haul, not just a one-off standoff. And the effect on public sentiment? Huge. Escoda has ignited conversations from Manila coffee shops to fishing villages along Palawan. People who never cared about maritime law suddenly know the term exclusive economic zone. Fishermen long pushed out by Chinese patrols see Escoda as proof that the government is finally putting its boots and ships where its words are. And then there's the youth. Social media is buzzing with Escoda memes, TikTok explainers, and threads that read like mini foreign policy lectures. When you've got teenagers dropping references to the 2016 Hague ruling between dance trends, you know the issue has entered the bloodstream of national consciousness. That's the hidden power of Escoda. It's binding the country together. For years, the West Philippine Sea was a distant problem, too far from daily life. But now, it's dinner table talk. It's national pride condensed into one shoal. Escoda has gone from wear to never forget. And if you think that's powerful, wait until you see how Escoda is shaping not just Philippine politics, but the Philippines' place on the global stage. Escoda isn't just testing the Philippines, it's testing the entire world order. Beijing wants to prove that might makes right. That if you park enough ships, shout loud enough, and rewrite maps, the world will eventually shrug and accept it. But Manila's refusing to play that game. Instead, it's doubling down on something China hates most: the rule of law and international alliances. Remember the 2016 Hague ruling? The one that shredded Beijing's 9-line claims and tossed them into the shredder of international law. That ruling wasn't just a legal footnote, it's the Philippines' Excalibur. Every time China tries to intimidate, Manila pulls out that ruling and says, "Nice ships, but the law's on our side." It's the perfect mix of diplomacy and defiance, soft power with a steel backbone, and the world is paying attention. Every time a Philippine Coast Guard vessel sails into Escoda, it's not just flying the Philippine flag, it's waving a banner for every small nation that's ever been told to sit down and shut up. Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, they're all watching closely. Because if Manila holds firm, it sets a precedent. Big powers can be challenged, and sovereignty isn't just for the giants. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Escoda is forcing the Philippines to level up its own playbook. Joint patrols with the US and Japan? Check more Coast Guard ships on order. Check diplomatic blitz across ASEAN and beyond. Double check. Escoda has become the spark that's pushing the Philippines to evolve from a reactive player to a proactive defender of the region. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about the West Philippine Sea anymore. It's about the Philippines showing the world that it can be scrappy, smart, and unyielding when it counts. Escoda is no longer just a shoal. It's a symbol of sovereignty, resilience, and yes, stubborn Filipino pride. So what happens next? The BRP Teresa Magbanua will return, patched up and stronger, alongside other ships ready to rotate through Escoda like a tag team that never quits. China can harass, circle, or bluff all it wants. But the message is crystal clear. Escoda is not up for grabs. And for you watching this isn't just their fight. Escoda represents a bigger truth we can all learn from. Sometimes the smallest places, the smallest players, and the smallest ships carry the biggest weight in shaping the future. So if you want to keep riding shotgun on this unfolding geopolitical drama, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. Do you think Manila's strategy will hold, or is Beijing plotting its next big move? Either way, this story isn't slowing down. And neither should you, because one thing's certain: the Philippines will return to Escoda stronger, louder, and prouder, and the world will be watching.